Welcome back to another lesson with me, Mr. B. Today, we're going to learn about the influence of the genre Romanticism. For whatever reason, Romanticism is probably the most popular of genres amongst any of my American literature students. Students often gain skill points from this reading and lesson about knowing the differences and similarities between Romanticism and romance itself. So there is a distinction, and how Romanticism overlaps with its opposite, Gothic literature. So once again, we're going to visit Crash Course in John Green for a quick overview of Romanticism and one of the more iconic novels you would encounter in European literature, Frankenstein. Again, there will be a brief reflection at the end of the video. Make sure to respond to it before moving on to the rest of this video on Romanticism. Even in the 17th century, Romanticism was not just about love. Or if you've watched Ouran High School Host Club, it's not just Tamaki and the boys sweeping you off your feet. According to the Oxford Dictionary of Literary Terms, Romanticism is rejecting the rationality of the Enlightenment as mechanical, impersonal, and artificial. Romantics turn to emotional directness of personal experience and the boundlessness of individual imagination and aspiration. One of the more iconic Enlightenment philosophers, Immanuel Kant, brought attention to the ways in which subjectivity determines our apprehension of the world, influenced by the developing regard for individual sensibility and originality. Immanuel Kant is emphasizing the individual to an unprecedented focus on poetry as the personal expression of the poet. Just like John Green said, this is a response to the Enlightenment's scientific rationality, examining human emotions, how romance and the Gothic era existed simultaneously. So what does this mean? For the Romantics, the poetic symbol expressed universal ideas through particular concrete details, images, and metaphors, manifested its meaning by providing aesthetic pleasure and beauty as well as moral truth. So it sounds weird, right? How could, the European medieval Gothic era be any sort of romantic? Well, let's think back to that Frankenstein example. The story of Frankenstein is not just about bringing the dead back to life. It's a tale filled with infidelity and exploring love between lovers. So how does death overlap with love? And in what ways might one die for another? Maybe like Romeo and Juliet? To synthesize that cross between love and death, writing as a form of expression, writers are able to channel emotions such as love, terror, awe, horror, and passion over intellect, especially with this recent wave of enlightenment, which is why these excerpts discuss how Romanticism is challenging the intellectual. A modern example would be the short animated films from Love, Death, and Robots, where they play with this fine line between what love and death is. Some notable authors from Romanticism would be William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Lord Byron, Percy Shelley, William Blake, John Keats, and Mary Shelley. So let's take a deeper dive into Romanticism. If you haven't already, make sure you head over to Google Classroom and read pages 9 through 11. And think about the following questions. Why do you think this movement is called Romanticism? And how do you think Romanticism connects to Gothic literature? Do you think that maybe it's impacted art over time through music, theater, dance, and various other forms of art today? Up next, we're going to move on to Transcendentalism. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.